I don't know if I got time to do this or not. I've been trying. I got my poultry barn, got the roof on it, raced, and then I decided to whip up the highway to the Taylor River. Because I really wanted to float my camera down the Taylor River because there was apparently there's a whole pile of huge rainbow trout spawning in it, but I missed it by a month. I thought it was June, but it's May. I should have known that from past experience with other rivers. But I floated the camera anyway. And then I got to a spot in the river, absolutely frickin' stunning, and forgot the SD card in that camera. So, I've been bombing my way back, because I still have to get back and pack to go out to the coast today. And I found this spot right here. Sure enough, it looks like all weather hell coming from behind me. But anyway, significant note about this particular spot right here and behind me. Sprout Lake is behind me. Here comes the rain. And numerous houseboaters, houseboats, have reported hearing screams from the mountaintops to mountaintop across this valley, going this way, just over here. And then as soon as you get from about this point on, this end of Sprout Lake, all the way to Tofino, the amount of highway crossing sightings is silly. I also talked to a First Nation friend of mine who has relatives in the Ukilit, and he said they basically at the First Nations community there, they basically just, it comes up like, oh, I saw another one the other day. Oh yeah, I saw one in the headlights coming home tonight. Oh yeah, right by their land there, next to the ocean. So that's where I am right now. And also, I thought there was elk running around here. A few friends of mine said no, there isn't, but I did a little snooping, and sure enough, I found where a bunch of elk had crossed the highway, up by the highway bridge. Go figure, right? Elk present where there's a whole pile of sightings again. But anyway, squeeze this one in here before this rain really gets heavy. I think I got a plastic bag in my pocket though. Now listen to these, alright? 15 feet from a dog man's title, this one. Steve, I was about 18 when this happened to me. I'm 67 now. I dropped my girlfriend off at her house. She lived way out in the country. It was about 2 a.m. and I had to stop for a leak. I was on this old farming road that had just got new gravel on it. I passed this old farmhouse and the first big field beside the house to the second big field about 200 yards wide. There was a patch of woods in between the fields, about 150 yards back off from the side of the road. I stopped toward the end of the second field, got out of my truck. And I was finishing up when I heard something very large getting up in the middle of the woods. It started running, wide open towards the road. It was on 2 feet and it was very heavy, breaking down small to medium-sized trees and limbs like they were matchsticks as it ran. I got to the road and turned and started running straight. It got to the road and turned and started running straight at me. It was too dark for me to see what it was, and this thing was moving extremely fast. I jumped in my truck and floored it. I was throwing up a ton of rocks and gravel as I was leaving. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 feet behind the truck by the sound of his footsteps. I was about 10 miles down the road before I slowed down any. I hate to think what would have happened if I had stopped closer to the farmhouse. I'll never stop like that again. Next one. Steve, this is about 2015. I was a truck driver for a large company. I had a regular run to a terminal in Manassas, not far from DC. I usually get there at about 1:30 to 2 a.m. This night it was raining, misty rain, heavy misty fog, lightning, thunder, and had a light cold west wind. The terminal is out in the woods kinda, about 1.5 miles from a large college. It runs north to south with an 8-foot high electrical fence with razor wire on top all around it. There are electrical poles running down the back side of the fence running north to south that face an open field and woods. The electrical lines are always crackling overhead when it rains. This is a large terminal, as up the north end. We had about 6 trailers parked in the northeast end up against the fence. After hooking up my trailers, I had to go, so I thought I would go in between the trailers next to the fence to get out of the sun of the rain. As I got close to the edge of the trailers beside the fence, I looked north and there was a dog man walking 25 inches to maybe 30 feet, must have been, okay, you've got inches, this must be feet, walking 25 feet to maybe 30 feet up from where I was and 12 to 15 feet beside where I was standing. Luckily, the wind was blowing in my face. And he was looking diagonally to the southeast. I don't think he sensed me, at least not at that moment, as he was walking by. He was 7 feet and a half to 8 foot something. Oops, shit. Hold on. Oh my god, seriously? Oh, there we go. His ears were long and pointy, with long hairs coming out the top like a large cat. His face had 2 to 3 inches of hair on it, and went down his neck and over most of his body. The hair was dark, kind of grayish black, but it was shorter on his lower chest and stomach. His tail was long, bushy, 3.5 feet, and was flexed when he was walking like a show horse. It never looked at me, so I don't know what its eyes looked like. As it passed in front of me, I got the sense it had sensed me. It started going slowly, down on all fours. The grass is about 4 feet high. When he was on his all fours, his shoulder was about 1.5 to 2 inches above the grass. Then he started to sink down in the grass and was gone. I didn't know what he was up to, but I wasn't going to wait and see. I ran and got to my tractor. I didn't know why, but even as I was leaving, I was not feeling afraid. But still, I never went back to that terminal again. No frickin' doubt. Steve, this happened in 2004. When I hear you read this story of the man trying to communicate with Sasquatch and had dreams or visions with dinosaurs and portals, I almost lost it. I've never told this story, and I would not believe me, but I've told myself over and over I didn't see what I did see. Before GPS, all we had were maps to go by. I know this has been a long time, but here it goes. I got lost somewhere in Ohio, Pennsylvania. As a new driver, I got lost many times back then. I'd been driving for a long time in fog and rain, and I could not find a sign to find out where I was. When you get lost in a big rig, there are lots of places where you can't turn around or go, or even pull off of the road. I had no idea where I was, but I'd gotten out of the fog when I was coming down this mountain around a hairpin curve, going about 5 miles per hour. As I came around the curve, there's a full-size dinosaur standing there. I know. It looked to me like it was bewildered. It was about 10 inches taller than the telephone poles and looks like it had just took a step and stopped right at the road. 8 feet, I'm guessing. It had a long tail and was kind of wrapped around this 20-foot tall tree. From the top of his head to the tip of his tail, it's maybe 55 to 60 feet long. I'm thinking you're saying you're in feet because you're using inches on the typing. Its skin is grayish green, not scaly, but kind of like a rhino skin. The skin has a kind of shine to it. Its eyes have a shine to them, and they appear to be looking at me or my truck. It has a large mouth with very large teeth and looks like a Tyrannosaurus rex's. But it has larger, longer arms. At this point, I've stopped trying to believe that someone has put this up for some kind of advertisement in the middle of nowhere. And I'm full of terror. It looks like there's saliva in its teeth, and I can't get my rig to go any faster in these tight curves. I believe that it may have just came through a portal, and I know how it sounds. No matter what, believe me or not, everything I've said is true. AJ, got more to say if you want. Sorry, I tried to make it as sure as I could without leaving too many details. Did not use my email. Steve, you can email me if you have any questions. That's like, not too many people today are going to even give that a second thought without saying, what the hell, loose crack pipe? Right? Me? I'm at the point of life where I believe that absolute anything is possible. Think about it. So the filthy pricks who control the education system, the filthy pricks who take more than half of our money and control us quite easily today, they're finally coming forward and allowing the public to know that they accept the fact that there are UFOs. Right? Just that fact alone, that there are UFOs coming to this planet from another place, basically gives anything the possibility and anything the green light to exist. Right? We would have to be absolute brain dead idiots to accept the fact, even the government is coming forward, that craft from another galaxy or other planets are coming here to our home on this planet. And not believe that anything is now possible to be here standing right there right now. Right? If a craft can be coming here, and some of these crafts have been reported to be like bigger than a football field, what the hell have they got on board, and what have they been bringing here or taking from here? Right? Sounds absolutely bizarre. It sounds absolutely bizarre to even say this, but you can't get away from it. You can't get around it. UFOs have been spotted, video recorded, since the beginning of time. They're in artwork from the ancient Egyptians, in South America. The evidence is everywhere. There's literally tens of thousands of eyewitnesses. The government's telling us they're real. So that should be telling every single one of us that absolutely anything is possible, right? You imagine accepting the fact that there are craft coming here from another galaxy or planet, landing right here on this dirt right here whenever they feel like it. Having that thrown down your throat, you have to accept it as fact, because probably millions of people have seen these damn things in the air. The military have filmed them, etc. But at the same time, to accept that but deny other things doesn't make any sense at this point of the game, right? Hopefully I'm getting across what my brain's trying to get across. Let's see if anybody else has seen something like was just described, and see if anybody else has the guts to come forward to share it here with all of us. And you're not going to be attacked, and I am curious to hear how many more people have seen something like that. And yes, I have heard of that happening in the past. Some crazy ass shit going on, man. This is titled Effing Bigfoot, but not spelt the way I said it. My name is Tony Luttrell. I'm located in the top right corner of North Georgia. I love what you're doing, and this just happened yesterday to me and my dog, Yeti. The vegetation is getting green, so I left out before daylight to do some pre-season ginseng locating. I'd walked a solid hour before it started to break daylight. I noticed that every time I stopped to rest, I would hear something heavily mimicking my movements. This went on for a while before I started getting nervous. I'm a long way in these mountains, alone if shit went down. I'm too far to get help in time, so I just blew it off and forgot about it. My little dog Yeti weighs about 3 pounds, but has taken every step I have since he was born. He looked at me. He looked like he had a mohawk. All his hair was raised. He growled every 10 feet. I said, Yeti, chill. What's your deal? And I looked up. There in the trail, 30 yards in front of us, was this bipedal, human-like giant, standing about 8 feet tall and was almost 4 feet across the chest, no neck, and a small pointed head and dark eyes and rusty red hair all over that looked coarse like a Russian boar's hair. And I imprinted all of this information in about 20 seconds. I'll bet it imprinted in one second. And I knew there was zero chance of escape. It wanted to catch us. And after 10 more seconds of staring, it made this funny chirping sound I can't even explain. All the while I was backing away as fast but as slow as I could to try not to look like a threat. As soon as I got out of sight, I broke and ran all the way out without stopping. And I didn't even realize I ran all the way and was still holding Yeti. I put him down and he jumped right back in my arms. I get it, I'm still shaking. I'm still shaking like a leaf. But everyone should know that this was real. And my first experience with Bigfoot, he was not acting aggressive but curious. But if I meet another, it may kill me where I stand. There's bad ones, I'm sure, but this was my close brush with death, or could have been. Do whatever you want with my story. It's people like you that will be these things saving grace because of your great information flow to the world. Be safe. God bless. That was January, February, March, April of 21. That happened. Tony, there's nothing I could have done to get this red sooner, man. Just came across it, all right? I hope that you are okay since having that experience and it hasn't absolutely trashed your life like it has a lot of people. Welcome to the club of no return, man. and another one, and another one, and a frickin' another one. There's the title, Bigfoot 10 feet from me. I watch your program all the time. I really like your program. I want to tell you what happened to me in regards to Bigfoot back somewhere, I think it was 2012. Something like that, around November. I was helping a friend of mine put up a fence for a horse I gave her. We're putting posts in. We kept hearing down the steep ravine some stomping around, branches breaking. And her kids would say, he looks like, hey, looks like there's something black down there. I would say, probably deer squirrels, something like that. There's a punctuation missing, okay, guys? We got all the fence done, and we started to put the gate up before we could lead her horse out of this little stall we had, and we decided to go to town, and her twin boys are about 12 years old. And so when we came back, we're pulling down the driveway, and she's got woods all around a big deep ravine down behind the fenced-in area. I start to get out of my vehicle, and seeing the boys are standing on the porch, and all of a sudden we hear this big, deep screaming like it was kind of high up in the air. And I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I said, man, I'm going to run down there and scare these cats out of the tree. Sounds like they're killing each other, or going to kill each other. So I took off running, and thank the Lord, there was a fence, and it stopped me in my tracks. Because right there on the other side of the fence, I would have ran right into that Bigfoot. I stopped, and he was still in a scream, and he had his head back towards me, and his head was up in the air screaming. And I was hanging onto the fence in shock, just looking right at him. He was reddish brown, kinky curly hair. That's how close I was to it. Massively built. His arms were long, and when he came out of that scream, he didn't know I was there. He came off that scream, and the twin boys were running down behind me, and I think he heard them running, and I'm still standing there in shock, and he heard them. He pushed the big trees apart with his arms to get away from us, and he looked like maybe he took like maybe 4 big, huge, massive steps and jumped down this ravine, and the boys were saying, let's go after him, let's go after him. I looked at them in shock and said, not me. You can. And that's the first time I have seen one. I have pictures of a baby in a tree. I've seen several different colored ones and heard them talking, and they talk different language. One told me that there are tribes, and one was in a tribe called the Sasquatch tribe. If you want to hear a few more, contact me or email me back. Thank you and have a good day. Be blessed. Holy shit. There's somebody else who reportedly has a whole pile of encounters with these beings. Holy shit. Any of them peeking their heads out from behind me yet? I'm definitely in the bullseye. There's not even enough current for the river to flow my camera here, unfortunately. It's really deep and it's crystal frickin' clear, sweet water right here. But anyway, thanks for that email, man. If you got something else you want to share with us from everything you've been learning where you are, maybe even that picture, you know what's going to happen. You just said you got a picture of a baby in a tree with no photo offered up in the email, so you know the crowd's going to go wild, right? They're going to be on you like a fat kid on a Smartie in the comment section without a doubt. So, if you want to share the photo, you can share it through me or not. I'm good, but the audience probably isn't. Alright, what's this one? No title. Hi, Steve. Very much enjoy listening to your channel, and I've learned a lot from other people's experiences. Although I've sent this through before, I guess with the volume of stuff you get, it probably slipped through the net or got put in a spam folder. I come to realize that some of the facts from my experience fit in with many of your reports. Namely, the size of these things, their speed, their ability to see in the dark, the reaction of dogs, the unnatural level of fear, the smell, and the way these things sometimes seem to vanish. Before I share my story, I have a possible theory as to why these things have an interest in military bases. It would seem that certain aspects of the military know about these beings and therefore would have an interest in their abilities. It's quite possible to assume that some of these have been captured for study. If that were the case, then a military base would be the most likely holding place. As it would appear these beings are able to utilize some form of telepathy, then it is reasonable to consider that they may be using this to communicate with friends or family on the outside. So, is the apparent interest in the military bases actually attempted rescues? Holy shit, that's a pretty good theory. Right? Wow. I never even half thought of that one before, but that could make a lot of sense, couldn't it? Anyway, on to my story. This occurred in Australia some 34 years ago and continues to haunt me to this day. I was 27 years old and had recently arrived in Australia from the UK for a year-long working holiday. I had remade contact with an old childhood friend from the UK and her boyfriend. We've been undertaking a short, several-day touring and camping trip around New South Wales. And one of the places we stopped at was Wombayan Caves State Park. This is an area of quite spectacular cave formations, caves and natural park with dense brush, bush, and mountains. Anyway, we had spent the day exploring the caves and then got back to the campground to cook supper. By the time we had cooked and eaten, it was quite dark, but the sky was clear, and with the absence of any street lighting, the stars were shining brightly, although there was no moon. We decided to go for an evening stroll through the bush on a dirt track. As we walked down the track, we heard a real commotion above us to the left, maybe 30 yards away. It seemed like there were several dogs in some kind of compound that were going absolutely crazy. I've never heard dogs in that state before. There was, however, another element to this, and that was the presence of a large animal with very heavy footsteps that sounded like he was running up and down next to the camp compound, almost like he was deliberately trying to rile them. The interesting thing about this is that the footsteps were in a sort of a 1-2 pattern rather than a regular trot. It was like 1-2 stop, 1-2 stop. As we got closer, it became apparent that this thing was heavy. Heavier than any natural animal in Australia, and certainly heavier than a full-grown man, and was quite obviously bipedal. It was difficult to believe that a large kangaroo would be running around in dense brush and pitch-black conditions, and in any case, this was much heavier. At this point, my friend Julie became spooked and decided to wait where she was, whilst we agreed to carry on and check it out. We both had flashlights with us, so, feeling brave, we decided to walk off the track into the bush, although we were pretty spooked. The track at this point curved around to the left and was cut into the bank above us, such that we were forced to walk a ways around this bend to a point where the bank leveled off and we could climb up to walk in. We lost sight of Julie at this point. All the while, the noise continued and we started walking in slowly between the dense foliage. I have to admit, as we got closer, we were starting to get really spooked. This thing was really heavy, and from say 20 yards away, we could feel the ground shaking with its footfall. We slowed our progress and eventually looked at each other and decided it was just too much. And I remember distinctly thinking that whatever it was might attack if we showed up and shone our flashlights on it. I've not experienced that level of fear before, and it's difficult to rationalize. I reckon we got to within about 10 yards of this thing, but couldn't see it because of the dense vegetation. We decided to head back to the track. At this point, we heard the thing change direction and come running, not directly at us, but more of a 45-degree angle directly back to the track. It came crashing through the branches at full speed, and remember, it was pitch dark there and very dense bush, no moon or lights of any kind. The next thing we heard was a loud thud as it reached the 5-foot bank and jumped onto the track. Sorry. We heard no more noise from it. This is odd, as it had 3 possible exits. One was back along the track we just used, but Julie just stood there and later said she saw nothing. But Julie was just standing there and later said she saw nothing. The other way was further along this track, but we had sight of this, and it definitely didn't go that way. The third way was over the track through the bush, continuing the direction it had come. At this point, the bush changed and became very dense paper bark and almost swamp-like. There's no way anything could run through that without making a noise. It just seemed to vanish. No sound of it running on the gravel, track, or anything. We reached the track again and started walking back to where Julie waited. As we crossed the point where the creature hit the track, as it jumped off the bank, there was the most terrible smell, like rotting flesh mixed with a really dirty animal smell. Very strong and not pleasant. Unfortunately, Julie saw nothing. She was around the bend in the track, and we never saw it either. To this day, I'm unsure if we made the right choice by not proceeding further. Were we in danger? If we had seen it, we would wish we hadn't. Was it hiding in some way when we walked past where we encountered the strong smell? Who knows? But it's something I'll never forget. Anyway, keep up the good work, Steve, and keep on with the fight against this global tyranny that is happening. There are many of us awake and more slowly realizing. Best regards, Jeremy in the UK. Okay, man. Oh, I see you got another big chunk email from you there just for me. All right, I'm gonna have to. I'll have to read that after, man. All right. Thanks for that experience. And a side note, I was talking to somebody you guys know a while back, and I was speculating on my own. I thought that maybe possibly that smell is a residue left over after they become visible or invisible, if you want to call it, if that is what's happening. And this person who you also all know agreed, and he thought so too, and that means he would have thought that a long time before me. Go figure, right? Maybe possibly the smell is the residue of them coming into this same plane that we exist on. I don't know. Who knows? You never know. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know, man. But thanks for making that share. There's a lot of people in Australia have experiences. Alright. I get one more out, and then I'm going to book it home. I got a lot of packing to do. Sergeant of Marines, Sasquatch telepathy. Bracket fixed, end bracket. First email, double stacked, here's a fix. Love this channel. Would greatly appreciate it if you would share this. This telepathy thing has happened to me on and off since I was a small child. I've been going to professional counseling for about a year now after my last telepathic experience. I was worried I could be slightly schizophrenic. That's not the case, as I'm deemed a perfectly sane and healthy 32-year-old male, no medications. I decided to start opening up about my experiences because they are real. And there are other people like me with some sort of telepathic capabilities. We can only improve as humans if we learn from each other. I recently opened up to my mother about it, and she asked me when the first time was. I told her my first memory of an experience was from our house in central Wisconsin. She didn't believe I could remember that far back because we moved when I was only 20 months old. I actually had a lot of memories from that house. I was able to draw her a layout of the two-story house, including the 2 detached garages. She was at awe, but was more open-minded when I explained these things that have happened to me. I'd like to tell a few telepathic stories and hope to hear some similar stories or ways for me to improve this God-given gift. I know there's a lot of evil in the world, but there's also a lot of good. It's the yin-yang effect. Without darkness, there's no light. I truly believe us humans are on the brink of a great change and will soon be an interplanetary species created in God's image. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In this life, I am a ground man because that's my purpose. It's what I was born to do. When I say ground man, I'm reflecting on extreme respect for the earth and nature that God has given us for our home. I was a professional hunting guide in Montana before joining the Marine Corps at 21 years old. My life has always revolved around the outdoors. I served 7 years honorably in the United States Marine Corps until I left for personal reasons. I was twice meritoriously promoted and spent the last 3 years at battalion headquarters in a 12 to 16 Marine Specialized Infantry platoon. I'll not share any of my telepathic experience that occurred during my service, but here are the 2 most recent. I physically have never laid eyes on a Sasquatch, but have had a rock thrown at me in the Bob Marshall Wilderness and have heard screams at a distance that were both high-pitched and low-pitched at the same time. One day hiking, I took a nap. I had a very vivid dream involving my dad. It wasn't pleasant, and notified my immediate family that I felt something bad was going to happen. 5 days later, sometime around 11 a.m., something was telling me death was near. This something was someone or something in my mind. It was not a gut feeling. Something was telling me my dad was or would be in danger. Long story short, my brother-in-law found him face down in a ditch in the mountains at 2 the following morning. Borderline hypothermic but alive. Broken bones but good. That was 3 years ago. Second story is more confusing. Last summer I was at home around 9 p.m. I was winding down for the night, and this telepathy thing happened while I was fully awake. It's hard to explain. It's like pictures, but in feelings. Not exactly visual, and the words aren't words, they are feelings also. Now, at first, it was a male-type presence that was trying to explain something. I felt frustration, anguish, and urgency from it, but had no idea what it was about. I quit everything, laid down, and just tried feeling. Soon, a much larger, calmer, clearer, and more mature presence entered my mind. Whatever this presence was must have been very knowledgeable about this telepathy stuff, because within minutes, I knew what was going on. There was a man lost and panicking in the mountains somewhere north of me. I tried explaining I'm of no help by visualizing where I was, but she made me feel that I could help with my mind. Made me feel like I've had this power since I was little. She somehow put me in his mind. And it sort of worked. I could feel his heart, his stress, but the overwhelming was the fear and his loss of hope. He was wet, aching, no pack, and the fear was coming from the fact that this female presence had been following him, trying to help him. He didn't know what she was. I must have come across to him somehow, because after an hour or so, he was much calmer and he was thinking logically. I kept it simple. I kept, I'll call it, flowing the energy of the acronym STOP. Stop, think, observe, plan. As the female started bouncing to me and bouncing me to him, I was able to have them come within physical contact. Soon after, I had nothing. Every feeling and telepathic presence was gone. Then, around 1 in the morning, I'm wide awake and she's in my head again. She tried putting me in him, but I couldn't physically or psychologically handle the stress and the loss of hope. So, she stayed in my head for a few minutes. It was apparent he died, and he thought a CPR or other medical stuff could register with her. For the short time I was with him, I'm assuming it was a heart attack from what I felt. The man seemed to be a healthy 40, 50-ish year old male. The last feeling I had from her was extreme sadness. After that short 15 minutes, it's never happened since. Telepathy is super fast and super hard to explain. Now here's the kicker to this whole thing. I have nothing wrong with my health. I went to the ER in an ambulance around 7 a.m. that morning. My heart rate, which is normally resting at 65, had dropped to sub 25 beats a minute. A few hours after an EKG, ultrasound, and blood work, I was deemed the healthiest ER patient once my heart rate recovered. I spent probably 80 hours in professional counseling over this. I'm mentally fine. No one can give me answers. Is there anyone out there that can point me to someone or something for more info? Thank you all so much. These are just 2 of a lifetime experiences. Holy shit. Well, there you go. Share it. Share it to a shit pile of people. And I got a funny feeling somebody listening is going to be able to relate to what this man just shared with you guys and me. And that is a lot to chew on. Man, this past couple of days there's been a lot of emails coming and just make you go, huh? Whoa. There's so much out there to be learned. There's so much out there that we haven't been taught. It's frustrating. It's almost like we need about 3 or 4 lifetimes to get all this shit in a straight line, right? Crazy, man. What a frickin' crazy thing to have happen to you. And I hope somebody either contacts you through the comment section below, or maybe somebody's going to email me. Maybe somebody's going to email me that's absolutely in tune with what you have shared, and maybe they'll get in contact with you. I guess this is a great way to start that process and find out, right? It's coming to places like this. What a holy shit email, man. What a wow, crazy experience. Oh, hold on a minute. What was that? Just at the top. Thought I saw something. Alright, here we go. Listen to this. Confirmation of one of your stories. Okay, I'm going to use this for the last one because it's short. And I got to get ripping. I got stuff to do. I'm running out of time. I'm soaking wet because I ran on the river, of course, with my camera. Didn't bring waders. Confirmation of one of your stories. Steve, the story you read on the shore of that beautiful river took me by surprise. You had to reread it because the earlier video was interrupted by the huge Mastiff dogs. I was left in suspense after you were interrupted, and was glad that you went back to it. The story with John the Bartender at the scout camp in Central Florida, in the Ocala Forest, it is all true. I know everything he talks about, know some of the people, and Striped Owl. I had a couple other possible Sasquatch encounters at the same camp in 1993 and another a few years later. I did not have a visual sighting at the time, but heard strange, long whistles in the middle of the night. At the time, I was sleeping alone on the ground near the artificial lake on the opposite side of the camp. John no doubt knows that area. Years later, I've seen at least a half a dozen reports submitted by people within a few miles of the same place. Chris, a former Hatchinaha. Oh, this is you, Chris, a former Hatchinaha chapter chief. There we go. We've done it again. We have connected different people from the same place or even the same encounter. We've had a handful of people email in separately the same encounters or the same places with their own encounters, right? It just happened again. So much to think about, so much to chew on, man. It can get frustrating. Like, I dive down I dive down so many rabbit holes, it's not even funny. And sometimes I gotta pull myself back. I gotta tighten up on the reins, because it's like having 10 or 12 projects and never finishing one. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to learn something about a topic over here, and I'm really trying to learn about another topic over here, and I'm really trying to learn about another topic over here. And then all of a sudden I get a brand new one pulled out of the middle of nowhere, slammed in my face that I know nothing about, and then it gets my curiosity, and then here we go off to another rabbit hole, right? It can be frustrating wanting to know everything. It can be frustrating wanting to know the truth of everything, because there's so much that we have to try to figure out on our own, because it's all being kept from us intentionally. It's frustrating, but you never quit. That's the key. You never quit, and you never be scared, ever, of anyone, anything. And then you win, and you become successful. Oh, that hurts. Well, it'll be interesting to see if you guys saw anything back there behind me. I guess I won't find out till later. Oh. That's some deep, clear water. I don't know if the camera will pick it up or not. I'll try. You see it? What a great place to come swimming. And up over that hill, up over that hill is that place I told you about, Namint Lake, where I will be going with the inflatable, up and over the hill in the clouds. All right. Have a great weekend. I'll see everyone, talk to everyone later.